So I'm Kirsty Day, I'm the Director of Recovery at the Nelson Trust.
My name's Simon. I'm an ex-client of Nelson Trust. I was here 11 years ago. I now actually work here. I've worked here for the last about 2.5 years.
So my name's Kelsey. I work at Gloucester Women's Centre, which is part of the Nelson Trust Community Services. I'm a senior project worker there, so working across 2 contracts, working with women who are kind of heavily entrenched in addiction and some that are unfortunately having to sell sex as a means to fund their addiction.
So my name is Ben. I come into residential treatment in December 2022. So my current situation at the moment is I'm in a dry house supported by Nelson Trust that is facilitated by staff on a weekly basis with meeting attendance, with activity attendance, and through the screening of alcohol and drugs testing.
So my name's Beth Hughes. I'm the residential manager here at the Nelson Trust.
We are an organisation that was founded in 1985 from a couple named Roy and Mary Brash, who had a heart to support men originally in the local community who had alcohol issues. And so we come from very, very small origins and branched out across kind of Brimscombe over the next 10 to 15 years, supporting men and women with dependencies to drugs or alcohol, who also have a history of trauma.
The residential service helps people with addiction, recover and achieve long-term recovery. It's really successful. I think, each person's recovery is individual, but, the successes I've seen over the years I've worked here is phenomenal.
I come from a family of addicts, so both of my parents were addicted to Class A substances. I ended up imprisoned in 2004, 2005, and was offered an opportunity to undertake a programme, a recovery-based programme to address my addiction, which I did. And one of the things that they strongly encouraged was to, as you transition out into the community post-sentence, that you do some further work.
From a baby, I suppose, onwards, it was my abuse within my family unit was done in a normalised, it was normal, because it was all I knew. And I got to be about the age of 11 and something wasn't sitting right, and I tried to talk to other family members, and it was back then, it was, that was the early 80s when stuff was just brushed under the carpet. It didn't happen. I reached for alcohol. I knew the effects of alcohol by the age of 11. I knew what would happen. I knew it'd take me out of self. I knew it'd, quieten my head down. And once I took that first one, there was no stopping me.
Started off with, cannabis, that kind of stuff, and progressed to, Class A substances. I had a father who was addicted to heroin, and I hadn't known him for most of my childhood, and when I found him when I was 18, he introduced me to heroin.
My trauma, what I had was abandonment and rejection. So I lost my father at 3, and my mum was a heroin addict. So as a child, with no emotional available parents, that was quite traumatic. To have food in the cupboard, to have a safe home, to be loved as a child, never had that.
From just a really young age, I grew up around a lot of domestic violence, so single parent household, lots of domestic abuse, grew up on a very rough estate, lots of drugs, violence, crime, that kind of thing. And I was a bit of a nerd. I loved education, I loved learning, I loved sport, so I was always busy. But just kind of trying to lose myself amongst the chaos of what was going on in my home life. I think that's probably what landed me in addiction ultimately. You know, there was no peer pressure from others, there was no one introduced me to it on the off chance. You know, I went looking for something that was going to take away the pain of years of trauma, ultimately. I mean, it started in the same way as most people. It just started with kind of cannabis, prescription drugs, alcohol, and at the end of my using, it was crack and heroin.
So somebody made a call, I get emotional, somebody made a call to the CEO of the Nelson Trust and said, would you give this girl a chance? He didn't know me from Adam. And he said, yeah. And that decision transformed my whole life. Without that, 16 years of recovery later, nearly 11 years of employment with the Trust, that was a solid investment he made.
They showed me that there was another way. You know, not all staff members, but quite a few staff members here are in recovery themselves. And I got a lot from those people. That's probably where my hope came from, was that some of these people were in similar situations to how I was. They used like I used, but they had years and years clean. And I thought, well, if they can do it, so can I.
I came here from prison, so, you know, I spent many, many years in addiction. It was a really hopeless place, actually. And when I was in prison, I was introduced to recovery and the principles of recovery, and I was lucky to get funding. And my friend had come here and she recommended this place.
I would have never had a chance at life, I guess. And that's what I'm really grateful for. And I love these guys here, they're amazing people. And I love that I come to Nelson Trust because there were so many treatment centres that I was supposed to go to. And, you know, I was guided to this one. And it's a magical place.
Hope is interwoven into the fabric of every building, every conversation, every intervention, and everything we do. Hope is vicarious.
You know, that my experience helps me to sit in someone else's darkness and kind of say, like, I know there's a way out. I do know is when I got clean, I wanted what I do to have meaning. Like, I didn't want just a job, I wanted my life to have purpose. I wanted to be able to look back on my own pain and it be worthwhile. And, you know, I have people that fundamentally kind of shone light in the darkness of my world, and I wanted to be that for other people, so.
So we have women's centres in Cardiff, Swansea, Bristol, Bridgewater, Gloucester, Swindon. We also provide services in Wiltshire as well. And our residential properties are based in Brimscombe. We have 4 houses and 3 move-on houses for people who have successfully completed treatment, remained abstinent for a period of time, and are moving on to that next step in independent living.
In residential, you see these broken adults come with trauma, abandonment, rejection problems, and to see them, 17 people in the house, it's like a rebirth of children, because they can laugh, they can have happy times, they can say silly things without being judged, you know.
People stay with us between 12 and 24 weeks. It really starts to become their home. You know, we really careful that we work in their home for the time they're here. It's not a building. We try and foster that homely, healthy family spirit.
Here was the first time in probably many, many years that I'd actually noticed the birds singing in the morning. You know, being able to walk along the canal, to take in the greenery, you know, to watch the ducks and the swans. There's a pair of swans on the canal between the houses here, and they have cygnets every year, you know, and it you know, I'm someone who couldn't even tie my own shoelace before I come here, really. You know, if I had shoes with shoelaces in, and then to take notice of such beautiful nature, stuff like that, I think it is part of it. It does help. It is a massive help.
So if places like us, if the Nelson Trust didn't exist, those who we support would die. That's a very real outcome.
I would probably be dead, I think. I was very fortunate to make it out of my last relapse. My recovery journey hasn't been linear. I relapsed for about 6 months and nearly died twice in that period of time. And I think if I hadn't have gotten clean when I did, and if drugs hadn't killed me, I probably would have killed myself because I didn't want to stay in that life.
If I hadn't have come to the Nelson Trust, I don't think I'd be here today. Nelson Trust saved my life in a way that I didn't even think was possible. And it's enabled me to have a life that I didn't even know existed.
In all honesty, if I didn't come to Nelson Trust, I would have died a very painful death. And it wouldn't have just been my death, it would have been my parents, my children.
I would say never underestimate the moment of kindness. You know, in a world where we can be anything, kindness is always possible. You know, what someone might give today, be it £1, £2, you know, might make the difference between someone else getting treatment or not. That's life-saving money, you know. I don't think anyone who comes through our doors think that they're valuable. You know, and each person who decides to just give some money or time shows them that actually they are worth something. I guess if I was watching this, I'd want to be part of that, holding the hope also.
We know that addiction, it doesn't just impact the individual themselves, it impacts families, children, loved ones, it impacts the local community. So, you know, it almost takes a village to kind of raise a recovering addict, if you will, and that's why we need the support that we do to continue the work that we do. And then communities heal. So if communities feel the harm of addiction, communities also feel the benefit of recovery.
A life is so gifted and precious that we only get one time in this life, and for you to make a difference today with the contribution of saving someone's life is something that will last forever.
It makes a massive difference. People knowing that there is someone in their corner and they are not on their own. You know, people need to have people holding the hope. If they're in active addiction, when I was in active addiction, associated with other people, no one else in my social circle could tell me there was hope because they were in the same position. There needs to be people that stand out there and say, I believe in you, I can help you, we'll work at your pace and meet people where they're at.
Everything helps is the first thing that I would say. There are always ways that we can use support, particularly financial support, to better the lives of our clients. And, you know, I can't encourage people enough. It doesn't matter how small it is. Like, please help us to continue doing the great work that we do.
We have a saying here at the Nelson Trust, is that we're the holders of hope, and that we will hold the hope until each individual can hold it for themselves, and then they're free to take that on. And many people who come through here go on to be holders of hope in their own lives. And, you know, just as addiction ripples outwards, so does recovery and hope.